So welcome. It's just exciting to be with you all today because this is one of my favorite topics in mathematics. As Reese said, I'm an educator. I taught school for over 25 years before joining the McGraw Hill family as the senior mathematics curriculum specialist. So my entire education career has been spent teaching children, teaching teachers like yourselves, and just devoted to really developing quality mathematics in our classrooms. And hands-on learning is absolutely one of the best things I think that we can do to promote hands-on learning. So we're going to move along and know that everything that we're talking about today is clearly visible in Reveal Mathematics K-12. And I really want to emphasize the fact that while you might be in print now and with your students in the classroom, we have vivid reminders of what the past few years have been like and how devoted we were to promoting technology in our classrooms, often through the very difficulties that we had just now getting our screens to show. Or you may have embraced a hybrid approach of using print combined with your digital resources. And you may continue to use that method now that you've embraced it. So I'm hoping that the things you'll see, you'll want to go in and investigate. At the conclusion of our time, you're going to have a screen that has all of the logins and the passwords that you will need for K-5 Reveal or for 612, so that you may go in and access all of the resources and attempt to use some of the tools and the digital resources that we have that are a part of Reveal. Before we start, I really wanted us to make sure that we were all talking about the same thing. So when we talk about hands-on learning or engaging learning or interactive opportunities in mathematics, I want to be sure we're talking about the same thing. So I just wanted to bring up what might be considered definitions. So we know that learning happens, excuse me, when the brain is engaged in making connections and creating familiar patterns. And as you know, as I saw in the chat, so many of you all are involved in mathematics at the higher level. And those of us who maybe I finished my teaching career actually as a fourth grade teacher, having spent 15 years in an elementary classroom before moving into upper grade levels. So often manipulatives and the use of interactive learning is associated with young children, and that is just simply not true. Our older students sincerely and just love the hands-on engaging activities that are very much a part of our higher level mathematics courses. So hands-on learning strategies engage the students of all ages in multiple modes of learning. We know that means the kinesthetic, the problem solving, and of course, trial and error. The hands-on math approach is the idea that students need to feel and touch what they're learning through, I'm so sorry, through a concrete learning experience. So you notice that word concrete, and we so often think of that as just as a hard manipulative, a pattern block, a base 10 block, something that, can be touched and held, and that is true. But we have transitioned so much of this concrete learning experience into digital resources, and you all may be using virtual learning tools or digital learning tools as a part of the modeling that is so important to math. Using these tools and modeling solutions is as important as the student manipulating them. And of course, this should happen before they're exposed to the more abstract learning that takes place when students begin to solve equations. When they start that transition over from this kinesthetic or concrete approach to more abstract, they need to connect that thinking to what they did, the holding, the touching, the movement that was associated with hands-on learning. Because when those symbols start to come, and as the pencil moves to paper, having that connection to what the concept was is crucial to them truly understanding true depth of knowledge. So this is why I'm hitting this so hard, because without this experience, They may lack the conceptual understanding, that's needed for them to really embrace and make connections with more complex topics. And I'm talking pre-algebra and algebra now. This is really what we're doing. We're building that engaging, interactive experience that ultimately makes the pre-algebra and the algebra come alive. And you know the ones where it isn't working. You've seen them as you get deeper and deeper into your algebra courses or the work leading up to algebra, and you can see that look that comes across like, I'm not connecting here. I don't know why this looks the way it looks. And so often they have no experience to link it to. So that's my hard hit on why we should be using the engaging that experience that is a part of hands-on. So I want you to think about it. This type of learning changes the role of you, the teacher, from information dispenser to a co-explorer of knowledge. So it kind of really changes perhaps the way that you had intended instruction to be and puts a little bit more, and I really don't want to do that, but a little bit more on your plate as to how you can help these students really understand the abstractness so that is so often a part of the mathematics. So I want you to just think about that. You are becoming a co-explorer versus the information dispenser. Now, you and I all know it is crucial that we also dispense knowledge. There is just that time we have to stand at the front and we have to show them and tell them exactly what they're learning so that they can make those important connections. So one of the things I wanted to emphasize with Reveal is the student digital content that you may have to take them into as a part of this co-explorer. So this is course 3. So this would be about the 8th grade, depending on how your school chooses to have the children engaged in what might be considered their grade level. So the student digital content I want to put up here first, interactive student edition. So everything that you do with regard to getting the content in front of your students can be interactive through the materials. Even the things that you assign as the teacher, whether it's the resources such as virtual manipulatives, quizzes, assessments, all of these things can be accessed digitally. And this includes content videos and e-tools. And when I mean content videos, I'm talking about really letting them see the modeling of the use of manipulatives and interactive resources as a part of the resources that you own and that the students own. And you can see right here on the screen, and this includes Desmos right here. So all of this is built into not just the resources that you use as a classroom teacher, but also the resources that your students use and have full access to. So in your teacher's edition course, you're going to have teacher notes. When you see these manipulatives, when you see these e-tools, know that you have teacher notes that are going to explain to you exactly how to use it, and that includes the pacing piece, because that is so important. When we get into the hands-on, it is so easy to let time get away from us. And I say this as an experienced educator. We get into it, they are excited, and I'm talking K-12 here. They're excited to use them, and they're excited to understand and interact with the resources that you provided for them, whether they're the hands-on or whether it's something that that you're using as a digital asset. And it's so easy to let that time slip away from us, and then we look at the clock and we start speeding up because they were so immersed in what was going on, what they were exploring, that the time has slipped away. And as a teacher, this is one thing that I hear a lot. Oh, I don't want to pass out anything. It takes so long. It takes so long for my students to get the materials out and to get them, on top of their desk or tables. And then by the time we finish the activity, there's no time left to do the mathematics. So it's very important as teachers that we understand not just the lesson pacing, but the time pacing that goes with the distribution of manipulatives and then the collection of manipulative. So I strongly encourage you, as you move deeper into these interactive resources and activities, that you think about your time management. It's just a big part of the whole puzzle. Then you have suggested questions, and you're going to see in just a minute. These are levels. To use these materials is to also integrate deep, thoughtful questioning. What did you do? Why did you do that? What did you learn from this? And asking them to self-assess at the same time. What do you think the intent of this was? Why do you think we used this tool? And those of you who are using the process standards, the 8 process standards, this is number 4, using appropriate tools strategically. We all have seen the student that may attempt to use a tool that is not effective. It doesn't do the job. So we often have to guide them towards, this is a more effective manipulative to use to solve today's problems. Often left to their own devices, they may choose a tool that just simply won't do the job. So it's our job as the co-explorer to guide them towards that appropriate strategic tool. So in addition to choosing the tool, is asking all the right questions, deep, probing, depth of knowledge questions. So we'll give you those as a part of using these. Differentiation recommendations come through your teacher materials as well. Very often when we see a student struggle with a more complex concept, we want recommendations on how to go back to the concrete object, to take them back to that hands-on kinesthetic experience so they can reconnect with what they're learning. And the differentiation recommendations through Reveal at all grade levels are often going to suggest a hands-on activity as a part of the differentiation. So look for those as you examine Reveal. Very often, we get so immersed in, how can I help this student? What can I do to really get into what they need? And we want to be sure that you have easy references to the student content as well as what you need to differentiate. And then, of course, the digital content. And this is, of course, going to be the customizable lesson plans. So as you're looking at the tools that you have, you're going to have full presentations of the lessons. We've already built those for you. But the beauty of Reveal is there is the opportunity to put in what you want. So you can add in additional manipulatives. Perhaps you have one that you've used for years, a tool that has really been effective in your instruction. Please go into the lesson plan, insert that. Maybe you have a YouTube video that you've used that you really like about problem solving, about questioning, all those things. Perhaps you would like to add that in. Go right ahead. We want these presentations to belong to you and to you to feel like you own them. You have the interactive resources. I've mentioned it more than once. You have the e-tools as a means of showing virtual manipulatives. You have videos that have full modeling of how to use the manipulative correctly or more effectively perhaps than the student is aware of. You have digital teacher and student editions so that you can refer to what they see in front of them in their print. You can project that and model from it. And then, of course, all the reports, assessments, all those things that we have to gather data. And you have to gather data on what you know that your students know. And to do that through the digital resources is as important as seeing it in print. We just want you to know you have that. I'd also like to make a comment that I see that we have some chats and some Q&As. I'm going to have a specific spot within our presentation that I'm going to stop. So if we can just, know that I'm not ignoring you. Let me put it that way. I can see that you have some Q&A, and maybe Therese or Hamad would like to go in and look at those. So the Reveal layout is very simple. Everything I've just talked to you about is embedded within the program. You don't have to go seeking out anything or look for it. So in a module, perhaps devoted to integers, you're going to have your lessons. So roughly, each course consists of somewhere between 10 and 12 modules, And then, of course, each module is going to have the individual lessons in there. So this is doable. You have between 5 and 10 lessons, depending on the complexity of the topics you're covering, so that you know that everything you must cover is going to be, within your year of instruction. So I know as a teacher, we have to feel that. We have to know that the content and the instruction is doable. So that is a very important part of what we do as classroom teachers. So when you launch a module, you immediately immerse them into the hands-on. And they're very involved in this. What is it that you're doing? What is the essential question? The essential question, of course, will be answered by the end of the lesson and by the completed and assessed by the end of the module. And this is where the manipulatives come in. Why am I using this? How does this contribute to what I'm learning and what I need to master? So very often, as I mentioned, we will ask the students to self-assess. You can see here, we asked them to place a check mark corresponding to, I don't know it, I think I've heard of it, and I know it. This also guides you into how deeply to explore concretely. If the majority of your students put, I've heard of it, it could very well be that as the co-explorer with the students, you just really don't need to probe or be as deep as you thought you needed to be. So the self-assessment, not just at the beginning of a module, but as you progress throughout the module into deep, lessons 5 and 6 perhaps, to go back to that self-assessment and to ask the students what they thought. One of the strongest tools that we have as an interactive activity, this is all grade levels, is called Ignite. And Ignite launches the mathematics. It propels your students into the topics. The Ignite activities cultivate curiosity. They're going to engage and challenge your students immediately. They are open-ended. They are collaborative. They develop a strong growth mindset. It immediately puts them into, I can do this. I don't know much about it now, but I can do it. I know why we are doing this. And then, of course, it encourages productive struggle. And one of the things I love most about Reveal is we know the benefits of productive struggle, but it will stop you occasionally, and it might ask you, is the struggle non-productive? And you and I know what that is. That's when we're in there, we are challenging them, we're getting them motivated and curious, but we can see that the struggle that they have might be beyond what they're ready for. This is that, hey, whoa, stop a minute, that we all know and experience as teachers. This is that, oh my golly, I need to really stop a second and ask myself, do I need to go back to my concrete experience? Do I need to pull a small group or put partnerships together and ask them to go back into the concrete one more time? They're not ready to move forward. That's when our productive struggle becomes non-productive. And you've seen it when we have students who are struggling to the point of frustration. That is not at all the intent of putting this growth mindset experience. The Ignite is an excellent activity that opens the topic. It is in your teacher's edition, of course, but I'm showing you the Ignite activity on linear relationships and slope as you would see it digitally. I want you to notice that I can assign this to the students. You see the word assign here. If I click on this in my digital resources, I immediately assign it to my students. They can look, they can watch the video, they can go to the print resources, they can write in their interactive print resources. So this is yet one more way that we are taking the digital to the next level. I wanted you to be sure that you could see that. So when we're launching, very often we're going to look at a video to do that. We're going to launch the module with a video that, notice the word interactive here. This is going to take them into the student presentation. It connects to the real life experiences of the mathematics they're going to learn. In this case, it uses the topics of golf and temperature. And this uses the video to engage the students immediately in the kinds of manipulatives they're going to use. So I want to be sure that you recognize what these videos actually do. In addition, we're going to take you into Mindset Matters. I use the phrase growth mindset. Using manipulatives and interactive experience with the students is a matter of mindset as well. The students need to recognize that the mathematics they're using is very much a part of their lives. In the case of this particular lesson, it's about using a thermometer and temperature to gauge the activities that they'll do outside. So very often, this is a very abstract concept. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren, and they'll often say to me, well, what's the temperature outside? Well, when you use phrases like, 15 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Celsius, that is very, very abstract. In my mind, as a young child, I think, well, is that coat weather, or am I going to put on a bathing suit? And until you're comfortable and familiar with what a thermometer does, and this is, of course, going to apply whether it's actually using it to gauge the temperature outside, or if it's something in your science labs in Inspire Science. This is abstract, and we need to really give them experience with the thermometer, reading it, applying what we know about our own experiences with weather. This is where Mindset Matters becomes a part of collaborative risk-taking. And you can see here, some students may be adverse to taking risks during math class, such as sharing an idea. They may worry that their grades or scores might be affected by their answers, or they feel very intimidated and less confident about solving the math problems in front of their peers. So it's very important as the co-collaborator or the co-explorer as the teachers that we set that classroom of risk-taking and then willing to do it. So I wanted to be sure to point that out, because manipulatives let them become risk takers. It's a place to explore the manipulative, but also take a chance with it to see if it will work when they extend and challenge themselves. So that's just a way of what we're doing. So this is the online experience through the Teacher Center. This is about the 7th grade. Very easy, and we'll go in just a minute. But all the things I'm talking about are built into the Reveal structure. So you have an easy-to-use 3-part lesson. You're going to launch. Notice the word explore as a part of your risk-taking, and develop and reflect and practice. Manipulative use and interactive resources are in all 3 of these. You can use these manipulatives anywhere that you want to. They are not relegated to one place. Certainly, the Explore is where you're going to see a lot of concrete manipulative experience. You'll see it in the Learn, but you'll also see it when you're doing your checkups or exit tickets or practice. I would never probably in a practice limit the use of my manipulatives. If my students use them as a part of their Explore and Learn, I would certainly offer them the opportunity to use them as they are in their practice as a part of the lesson. So just remember that manipulatives are so much a part of everything that you may see on the screen. And please, if Reveal doesn't show a manipulative in a portion of the lesson that you see here, put it in. You are the one who is determining how the students become comfortable with the topics and the content. And if you want to use specific tools, whether it's base 10 blocks or integer tiles, you just put them out there. Put them out there digitally, put them out there concretely, whatever you happen to have within your classroom. So I wanted you just to notice how we have built out this lesson to explicitly explain to you what the students are doing. Notice that in Launch and Explore and Develop, every single statement begins with students. Students work, students gain, students complete, students view. These are the parts of Reveal, I think, that make it so very unique. Everything goes back to the student. Everything is about their learning, their opportunity to engage, and their opportunity to explore. So Just wanted to be sure to point that out as you look at our materials deeply. So as we are exploring, just to show you, we're going to use algebra tiles to subtract integers. Again, I'm going to show this to you because of our format today digitally. But this is an online activity, clearly pointing out which tools you should use. And it says you will use algebra tiles to model. There's that word. So important that the modeling is done so that as the students begin to manipulate what they're using, they know how to use it. So if you're not comfortable perhaps with the modeling part, we've built it in for you. So as you move through, you see, use algebra tiles to subtract integers. And we introduce that inquiry question so that they can eventually answer at the conclusion of the lesson and the module that essential question. Using algebra tiles to model subtracting integers, and already you probably have these students who in their mind they go, oh no, subtracting integers, I don't know how to do that. I was confused. In this case, we're going to model -5 and -2 in this workspace. And then they're asked to record. Notice that we've shown what the integer tiles reflect. See how this works. Notice to talk about it. Remember when I was showing you teacher resources, I said it's very important that we ask the right questions and that we pose the right questions to ensure that they are comprehending what the content is all about. So this is about the video, and I mentioned how that is an interactive part of the lesson as well. So just as an example, there are 3 of these. The first one was a positive minus a negative. Then you have a negative minus a negative. The beauty of Reveal is this. I can show that and model with this. They can have they could have algebra tiles on their desk. Or if you don't have any of those in your classroom, you can simply use the digital experience of going into the e-tools that you own and that the students own. They're identical, and you can have them practice using that way. So the limitations that you may have within your classroom of not having the concrete object does not affect your ability to move forward with manipulatives. I'm going to stop for just a second, and we have over here in Q&A. I'm hoping we have a question of something concerning special needs students, and I very much sympathize with the range often of experiences that these special students have. I'm hoping that what you see on the screen is very indicative of what you can use with your special needs children. It could very much be that you will always use concrete, that your students very definitively need to touch these things. They need a kinesthetic approach more than the visual digital approach. Or you may find that using the digital, as you see here, hearing the steps, watching each of, excuse me, the manipulatives being moved onto the integer mat is exactly what some of your students need. By having 3 examples, then it very much offers those students the opportunity, the ones in the room who are ready, to go deeper and deeper. And then I see 3 hands. Okay, I'm sorry, don't see any questions there. We are going to continue to ask your questions, please, and we'll continue to move forward. I'm hoping that some of your questions will be answered simply by having these experiences that I'm showing you. So when we're looking at the examples, we're going to break them down and isolate each and every one of them. So subtracting integers, we're moving from the conceptual understanding piece of using manipulatives into the fluency piece, because while you have the touch and feel, the visualization, the modeling, and in many cases the auditory, as you just did with the video, now we'll move into fluency and actually give students the opportunity to develop a strength with these concepts. So students will subtract a negative integer from a positive integer, and this is in the case we're going to use a number line, or you can use the additive inverse. For some students, they'll make an easy transition from using the algebra tiles over to the number line. Others might need more support. There we go. There's that opportunity for students to talk about it so that you can hear if they're making those connections between the use of the manipulative and then transitioning over to the number line, which is in itself another manipulative, or where their disconnect may lie and where you may need to provide additional practice. So again, here's our connection also to the standards. And we will always break down the learning into these 3 sections: the conceptual understanding, developing fluency, and ultimately the application. Always providing the objective. Not only do you know what you're working for, they know what they're working for. And then how to make sure that those mathematical practices or process standards, as they're often called, are indeed being accomplished. Notice this is using appropriate tools strategically. So are they using the integer tiles? Are they using the number line? And of course, one of my favorite reactions, especially with the young children, would be, and I would ask, how do you know that? And they would say, it was in my head. Well, you have to get it out of your head and tell me what you know. And you can show me what you know with the tiles or with the number line, if that's how you're going to be able to explain yourself, right? And this is, I mentioned earlier, and again, special needs, this may be very appropriate to you. When we're questioning as students and using strong mathematical discourse, often connecting to manipulatives, we have to be sure that we're also asking in such a way that they not only understand the math and can explain it, they understand the question. So as you can see here, we have 3 levels of questioning techniques. So, and what might be a potential answer for the students. So wanted you to see that. We think it's very important in Reveal that not only is mathematical discourse a part of your classroom, but appropriate mathematical discourse, the questioning techniques that they can indeed provide a response. As you move through the 3-part lesson design, notice in Explore and Develop, we explore using algebra tiles, and then we have the 3 examples, so that if you are determining that your students are indeed comprehending quickly and grasping concepts quickly, that you can move forward from one Explore to the other, possibly without doing all of the mathematics in each of the examples. But it's there. It's there. Or perhaps you just have a very small group that will need to go back and use the algebra tiles for each example. You may have some groups that are ready to move from the algebra tiles into the abstract, into writing the equations. The beauty of it is you have all of that, and you have it in your presentation, you have it in your direct instruction, and you have it in your differentiation. So this is yet one more way you can individualize that instruction based on the needs of each individual student, okay? So Again, everything that you need, both digitally and in print. And this, of course, is introducing, finding distance on the number line. Again, connecting to this very difficult concept of negatives. And then finding, we're moving from just using the tiles to actually performing a task. Notice this is to find the distance between integers and using absolute value. So we've made this dramatic shift from the use of the tiles over to questioning and discourse. We've moved it over to more explicit examples through exploration, and now we are really moving strongly through into connecting the work you're doing to the number line and ultimately to absolute value. So as you can see, throughout this lesson, there's been a dramatic shift in what you started with as to what your ultimate goal was. And notice here again, we're going to connect all this to the world that they live in. We're talking about the highest point being Mount Whitney and the lowest point with an elevation of negative 282 feet. And, you know, this is the part they love. They love the minutia. They love the idea of how tall a mountain is or how deep a valley might be. So this captures their attention. It gets them into that growth mindset of moving forward into more complex topics. And then, what do I know that I just learned that I can do to actually solve this? Everything is provided for you digitally. The number lines, the algebra tiles, it's all right there. And then ultimately we're going to apply it. So you're going to explore it. You're going to build fluency with it. And now let's connect it. We're going to connect it to minimum and maximum temperatures. We're going to take you into the planets, connecting into science, and the opportunity to see these negative temperatures and the maximum temperatures and apply it to what we know about where we live and what we know about outside temperature. Always asking the question. This is one of the routines that's embedded in Reveal Mathematics, and that is questioning 3 times. The first time, the second time, the third time. And it says you might want to read the problem 3 times and discuss the questions with a partner before we open the entire classroom to discussion. This is a part of that risk-taking. This is a part of that, put things out there, and they feel it's like they're in such a comfortable environment, they want to tell you the answer. And then how can you approach this task? What strategies can you use? This is connecting back from what you held and touched, what you talked about, to committing your thinking to paper. That is a big task. Now I'm showing you this in a middle school, possibly in early high school. This is the kind of thing that is very, very difficult and where strong manipulatives come into play, is when you ultimately ask them to write about what they learned or to write about what they know and apply what they just learned, you have moved through going from manipulative to and concrete. Ultimately, you've gone through the verbal. You may have gone through the opportunity to connect verbal to what they held and touched. Now we're going to connect verbal to print. And it sounds like, oh, well, that's a normal part of the day. It is. It's also one of the most difficult things that you could ask a student to do in mathematics. And then, did you come up with a solution to solve this? Show me. And then, how can you show that your solution is reasonable? And if it's reasonable, then it applies every time. And you can transition what you learn to other examples. These are the things that are what we strive for daily, is making all of these connections. And the use of manipulatives is a strong example of how that works. So these are all, notice we're still in application, and then we're encouraging productive struggle, and here are the signs for non-productive struggle, when it becomes not a struggle, but it becomes a confusion. So those are the things that I wanted you to see. But I also, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to stop sharing with you just a second, and I'm going to go over, and we're going to look at another screen. Super duper. All right, I hope you can see that. Okay, it says on my screen that you can. I've opened in our print in the digital in our print resources the teacher's edition for grade 2. We've been talking about these manipulatives with older students, but I think the use of manipulatives in the elementary classroom, I don't want to say it's a given, but you see more use of them with our younger students. I think that's a part of our own experience as working with early learners. It's encouraged in all of our coursework in becoming teachers. What you see here is the teacher's edition for grade 2, and we're working through the exact same lesson model that you just saw, the easy to use 3 parts. Now we're in Explore and Develop, as you can see here in grade 2. We're in volume 1, and as we get to the part where we're going to use the manipulatives, where we're going to really work on getting the concepts out with them, notice as you move into Develop the Mathematics, you have an option here. This is going to be in every lesson, and I think it's extremely unique to Reveal Mathematics. The Reveal authors worked very hard to make sure that you had the absolute best materials that you would have to promote concrete experiences. So you're offered 2 ways to deliver the lesson. You have activity-based exploration, and you have guided exploration. So how do you teach? What do you want to do? If you want to explicitly use concrete manipulatives to introduce topics, whether they're being reviewed, whether they're foundational skills, or whether it's something that you've taught and you're coming back and you're going to teach it at a higher level of instruction. If you're using activity-based, as you see here, then this is going to be manipulative-based. It's very much a part of a hands-on concrete experience. That's not to say you won't use them here with guided instruction, but there is a deeper experience here than using manipulatives. And I've found teachers are receiving this beautifully because many of them say, when I first introduce a topic, I want to be sure that we stay hands-on. I want to be sure that I'm asking all the questions that are relative to a hands-on experience. And others say, when I use the guided exploration, while I'm still exploring the topic, it could be this is not the first time they've seen it. It could be this is a topic that I've instructed before, but now I want to kick it up a level. So we want to be sure that Reveal offers you what you need for the kinds of experiences that you're going to have with your students. So I very much wanted you to see that. 2 ways to deliver the same concepts, 2 ways to deliver the same topics, and just a different way of doing the instruction. And again, I'm pointing that out because I think it's very, very unique. That just means that I've been in here over 120 minutes. Most of our things that we use with Reveal Mathematics will stay on your screen for 120 minutes. I logged in a long time ago, and I apologize. Teachers, and as you can see here, this would be Integrated Mathematics 1. Yes, we have Reveal as grade level specific, and then we also have it as a part of an integrated approach. I wanted you to see here that when I'm launching the module that I mentioned, whether it's K-12, when you launch the module, you're always going to have an Ignite activity. And this is using our author, Dr. Raj Shah, and how he would introduce the use of manipulatives and the topics that they're going to cover within the module associated with the use of manipulatives. Notice here, this is about mind your A's and B's and introducing the concepts of using integers in mathematics. Notice I can assign this to my students so they could watch this the night before at home so that when they come into the classroom on the next day, they're ready to start talking about it. This is for you. It's teacher only. This gives me the opportunity to see what I'm going to do with what they see. So just a very wonderful part of the experience of Reveal and being able to pre-assign, especially if you're using that technique within your classroom. The module video, again, you can assign this so they can watch this, be ready to discuss the next day how what they looked at connects to the mathematics and the manipulatives that they're using. So this is the kind of experience that our authors very much want your students to have. So the use of the manipulatives that you saw on screen, the use of the lesson design allowing you to completely devote your lesson instruction to the use of manipulatives is very much a part of what you do naturally because you've been provided with that experience. So I'm going to look at the Q&A again. On which component of the lesson structure would you spend more time? That's an excellent question. The idea is in the explore and discover, and then transitioning into fluency and ultimately application would probably be the body of your lesson, only because that's where the most experience is with the use of your concrete manipulatives or your digital manipulatives. And that's an opportunity to, of course, understand what they know. If you find when you get into the lesson that they're more experienced with a concept than you were prepared for, it allows you to accelerate. It allows you to do more of what's been provided versus perhaps even stretching the lesson out over 2 days, which we so often do when something is new. Can we make online summative assessments according to Common Core? Absolutely. They are embedded, they're here, they're leveled. And all you have to do is go into the assessments right over here in your assessment tab, and you'll be able to see all of that. They're leveled, give you the opportunity to assess them multiple opportunities throughout the lesson as well. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you give us an example? A question that has a differentiation and also, well, I'm going to challenge you on that one. Not that I don't want to, but I want to be recognizing the amount of time that we have. I'm going to show you how you can log in to all of these resources that you can use. I'm going to challenge you to go in and explore. So I would like for you to go into whatever grade level you choose. For Reveal Mathematics, I'm going to ask you to, these are all of the tabs that you can instantly go to. So if you open Reveal Mathematics, you can open your dashboard, and then you can come through here. You can look at the reports, the data that you collect. You can look at the assessments and the leveled assessments, which you're asking for. You can look at My Tools, which would be your online manipulatives. So I'm going to challenge you to do that. And I'm seeing here that Karima says that due to COVID, for over 1.5 years, the concrete aspect of teaching was not delivered. So I'm very sympathetic with that. I think these online manipulatives, well, I'm not going to use the phrase will catch you up. I think what they will do is they will provide a beautiful visual for your students to see the manipulatives in use on the screen. If you will do that, you're doing several things. Number one, you're providing students with the exposure to manipulatives they may not have seen for the past 1.5 years. Number two, you're also providing them with modeling. So if you pull up the manipulatives from the eTools in whatever grade level you choose, and you demonstrate and model at the same time how that manipulative is used, you're providing them with the experience of using a manipulative digitally that ultimately, if you want to pass out the concrete manipulative, they already know its functionality, they already know how it's to be used, and they already understand how it will work for them. It's a little bit more work. It might take a little bit more time, but you will be the beneficiary of doing that experience. So they have an obvious lack of knowledge. And you're asking, what advice do I have to overcome this? And keeping in mind there's very little time available to catch up. And again, I am so sympathetic to this. It's been 2 years like no other. I think if you devote the time to do that modeling with the manipulatives on screen. Number one, I think it's going to take away that uniqueness of when you actually pass out a concrete manipulative. It isn't a plaything. They understand it as a tool for solving problems or an exposure to a concept they may be completely unfamiliar with. Take the time to do this and let them see it. While I know you're probably thinking, but that isn't the same thing as touching and holding it. It isn't. But as we know with many of our students, the visualization can be as important as the actual kinesthetic experience of touching it. So I would strongly, strongly encourage you to do that. It's going to take a little bit more time, but in Reveal, we have built in a little bit of extra time for you. Yes, someone asked about email and presentation. Thank you. I'm glad you're finding it beneficial. Cherise mentioned that this is being taped. So you will have access to the link so that you can indeed go in and review this again, perhaps encourage a colleague to go in, encourage them to use manipulatives. And I want to be respectful of your time as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put up the logins and passwords so that you can see that, because I want you to be able to come in and have the experience on your own. So there is the login for 612 and the login, actually, I put K12 there. This is actually K5, I apologize. So Reveal Math, INT means International Demo. Here's your password. Reveal Math K5, and accidentally, I apologize. And here's your password. Please go in and use it. You cannot hurt it. Just go in, do whatever you want. You cannot set up an account for yourself. You can certainly use any of the e-tools that are there. You can go into the teacher editions. You can show the videos at all the grade levels, but you will not be able to use it as a classroom teacher setting up her own classes or his own classes. So I'm going to leave that right there, and I'm going to see if there's anything else that I've missed. Okay. Can we merge the guided exploration with pre-assessment? Absolutely. The beauty of Reveal Mathematics is the customization factor. You can do that because you want to do that. And I'm glad for the opportunity to show you just how, I want to use the word easy, but we all know that there's really nothing about teaching right now that's easy. We're faced with a lot of challenges. But what I've hopefully shown you today is the opportunity to gather some resources and the opportunity to use some very, very strong resources to benefit your math instruction. If you'd like more information about Reveal, you can reach out to your local representative. You can email Cherise, you can email me. My email is bethminor53@gmail.com. I'll say it again, Beth Minor, BETHMINOR 53@gmail.com, or reach out to our office. We're happy to provide you information on how to contact a McGraw Hill representative to work with you. And most of all, thank you for everything you do every day for your students. It matters. And I thank you for the time you've given me. And I did hope you learned something. I don't know if you heard me. My screen was pausing. I think it was trying to connect to some of our materials and things. But I just wanted, if you didn't hear me, I was thanking you for everything that you're doing. And I wanted you to know how appreciated you are, and reach out to us at any time if we can be of service in helping you find your resources, anything at all that you can do to that we can do to benefit your instruction, whether it's with manipulatives, the Reveal Math program, or something that you feel would be of benefit to your students going forward. It's been a privilege talking to you, and I look forward to one day meeting you one day. Thank you.